So thank you all for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting us. I'd like to start by paying my respect to traditional custodian of the land we're meeting tonight, the Kondamuka people. And my name is Romane Cristecu, and I am part of a much bigger team at the University of the Sunshine Coast. And I wanted to give them a shout and show them, if possible. I think I have to point there. Okay, stay. So basically, just an acknowledgement that the work I'm presenting tonight is built upon many people and many years of hard work. So thank you to all of them. Some of them are here tonight. You can give them some question later. Okay, that's better. So why do we do research in the Redland on koala? And we often talk to the community and our question about, are they still around? I haven't seen one for a while. And so I wanted to start with this map. In yellow, you can see points from the Atlas of Living Australia, where you can report your sightings. And those are, since a century and a bit more. So koala definitely been here for a long time. But then in blue, you have our work in the last 4 years. And so that tells you that they are still very widely spread in the Redlands. It is part of the Koala Coast, and there's a reason, of course, it's called Koala Coast. And we see quite good numbers still in the Redlands. Yes. So how do we know? Well, it's a little bit in our name, right? Detection dog for conservation. Koala are especially difficult to find. They are what we call cryptic, very good at hiding. And so we use every tool that we can to find them and map them and understand them. So this is one of our detection dogs, and it's all based on the fact, as Sharon said, that smell is really important, and koala poo smell a lot. And it's really good for us to look for koala poo or scats because it tells us where koala live, but also you'll learn a lot about what we can do with the poo in the following talk. Oh no, come back. So I just wanted to show you a little bit how it looks like. So basically all our dogs are rescue dogs, and we select them to be crazy about playing, toy obsessed, or OCD, we call them. And basically we associate what we're interested in, which is koala scent, to what they're interested in, which is playing with their toy. And dogs are extremely clever, make a very quick association, and very quickly you have a dog that wants to find that odor because they know they're going to play. This is the second thing we select our dog for, is to not be a threat to any other animal because they work in national park, etc. So she knew where this is Maya, my first dog, and she knew where the scat was, tried to access it despite chicken, and then drop very quietly to let me know the scent is there, and then get to play with a ball, which is her favorite part of the day. So the second thing we do is based on the fact that koala are hot. So that's them through a thermal camera. And we're very lucky that there's been a lot of advances, both in thermal camera, but also in drones. And so we can fit a thermal camera on a drone and then look for koala from above. So I've got another movie. That's it. So we're doing a transect here. We can see the tree, of course. And then if we spot something quite hot, we go and investigate because it can be other hot animals, such as bats or possum. We've got a zoom in the camera, and we kind of have a look at behavior and shape until we can confirm it's a koala. So in this picture, you can see a koala move around, a koala having a scratch before, and also a koala eating. So then it becomes 100% certainty. Much easier to detect them like this than doing line transect. When people just rely on sighting to find koala, they can miss up to 80% koala. So a very bad outcome, of course, when you're trying to map, and especially when you're trying to make decisions. If you can't see 80% of them, you can really understand that any protection, any action will be really biased. So up to what we have been doing here for the last 4 years is part of the big plan that Kath introduced this evening. And I really encourage you to go and have a look at that website where a lot of the information we're talking tonight is gathered. And we started by recruiting some koala ambassador in those koala safe neighborhood. And this is a map of where we found them at the start, and we kept an eye on them. So from so once we found koala, we catch them, and then we bring them to a specialist veterinary clinic to get a health check. And we also, if they're healthy, feed them with a collar. The collar has a GPS tracker that allows us to monitor the movement quite frequently, as well as remotely. A VHF tracker so that we can find the koala on demand and monitor whether they're going okay. And we also have an altimeter that gives us the height of the koala and a Bluetooth ear tag that I'll mention again in the future. But what do we do with all that research and all that data? So we do a lot of things. We obviously love data, but especially here working in the Redlands, we really want data that inform action and management. That's really the goal here. We're not really doing anything that is not going to be translated. And sometimes I send an email, a piece of data from a day, and the next day there's already action. So it's a very special position to be in as a researcher, because we don't have to wait years and years to publish a paper for someone to take notice and for something to be done. And all of us in the team of Detection Dog for Conservation, we're here for conservation. We're here to have an impact, and especially an impact positive for koala. So we really appreciate that partnership where we can really see the data we collect being put in action and helping koala really rapidly. This is probably, that shouldn't have changed, but this is probably the first thing that has a direct impact, is that when we catch a koala and they get a health check, about a third of them actually needed help, needed to see a vet and be treated at a hospital. So those animals can receive treatment. And this is especially critically because, as you heard it, koala are classified as endangered, and they have been vulnerable for a decade, and we haven't been able to reverse that trend. So we really need to inform management action and do a better job. So the threats are really well known: habitat loss, fragmentation, as mentioned, disease, and especially chlamydial disease, which is very, very prevalent here in the Redlands. And I really encourage you to know and recognize those signs, because we can help koala that are diseased. There are treatments for chlamydial disease. However, we need to catch them as quickly as possible, because the longer they have this disease and the less they're able to recover. And it both kills koala, but it also prevents them from breeding. So it's a double hit for your population. Vehicle strike, you'll hear more about that later. Dog attack, as we mentioned. Climate change is a major one. It's bushfire, it's heat wave, it's drought. It's also changing the chemical composition of trees and the distribution of trees. It's a major wild card for koala. Eucalyptus dieback and genetic bottleneck. You'll hear more about genetic later, but past from hunting, but also current from small population size. So those threats are widely known. However, what we've noticed looking at different populations is that the ranking of those threats are not necessarily the same between population and are rarely known. And so this is where projects like we're doing here with the ambassador koala, where we follow the koala and we know cause of mortality, becomes very critical for us to actually assess what is impacting those koala. And here in the Redland, what we have found is that chlamydial disease is the current #1 threat to the koala that are in our program and that we've monitored. So only when we know and rank those threats, we can allocate budget and really target our effort to where it's going to matter the most. Another thing we can do with our wonderful data, I will leave Caio talk to you about it.
So hello everyone. I just want to talk a little bit about movement, because some of you have seen koalas around and probably have seen myself, Azita, some of us around, and why we do it in the end, right? So one of the aspects is movement. We have to try to understand where they are going, where they're coming from, what they face in the way there. So imagine you're playing a Pac-Man game and you need to find the prize, right? So you have that little koala there that needs to find some resource, some food, maybe a suitable mate, maybe a place to live. But you get there, then that koala needs to move around and will face many challenges. All right, I hope I can do it. Yes. So we know in agricultural landscapes, for example, when you have, I cannot leave here. So in agricultural landscape, when you have a more fragmented region, koalas will move in longer distance, in more directed move. So it does affect the koala movement. We also know the koalas have different movement states. So you see a koala eating, it's like foraging, pretty much stay still, but sometimes they're dispersing. You also know the koalas cross roads, and you also know that, like, if you have fine scale fragmentation, it will affect how koalas move in their habitats. So just to give you a few examples, these are koalas that are ambassador koalas, or were, in this case, Bark still is. So Bark is a koala that came from Australia Zoo. He was treated there. And you can see on top, he was foraging there in Ormiston. And then he foraged, moved a little bit south, foraged, moved a little bit south again, and now he settled down there. He's a male. He's the joy of Tari, right? He's Charlie's joy. So he's a non-joy because his mother was an ambassador koala as well. And now he settled down in that region. And he has been treated twice at Australia Zoo. So recently, we just released Bark maybe some months ago. But you can see the other hand, Thelma. Thelma lives in Mount Cotton, and that's more like agricultural landscape. So you can see she moved quite a lot as well, and you can see that the scale of the map is different. So she moved there from West Mount Cotton Road. She was settling down until she dispersed all the way here. She crossed the road 3 times, and now it's be sitting there and settling in that region there. Thelma is a female who is around 9 years old. Encouraged, she has a joey in her pouch. So for us, it's a really great news. Miles is also living in Mount Cotton. He was released near Ciromet, where he stayed there for a long time until he decided to move south. He crossed Mount Cotton Road, yep. And then now he settled down there. So you can see they move quite a lot, and they do have these different behaviors. But sometimes koalas are just living near us. This is Wellington Point, and they are smart. So Rainbow used to live there near Wellington Point State High School. That's a female. And she went south, but she did use the underpassage that gives the trail line. So you can see, like, we do have an example underpass that does work. And that's her last joey, because she had at least 2 non-joeys. In urban areas, we know that males move more than females. They also move more frequently and in shorter distance. Why it happens? So this is Benson. Benson lives somehow close to here. And we release him here in the south. And then he decided to move north a little bit. And he just lives everywhere in the urban area, just crossing roads. Like, his favorite places are roundabouts. So things like that we see. But they have to move a lot to get everywhere because they don't have suitable habitat near them. So they actually have to move. Unfortunately, he's a male. He's 6. He's at Australia Zoo because it happens what we predicted. All right? Because we released him here, and he said, that's too dangerous. In the end, he was hit by a car. So he had a broken leg, and he's being treated at Australia Zoo right now. But some koalas have different behaviors. So I'm going to show you Benjo. Benjo is a dominant, we think he's a dominant male in Ormiston. That's Steven's place. He's an old guy. He's 7 years old. And he just hangs alone in the bushy areas. So now I'm just giving you some examples to see how they can be different like us. So koalas, like Benzo, they just adventure everywhere and take their own risk. But Benjo, he likes to stay put. and just be dominant there. Bark was released there. We could see Benjo and Bark maybe 3 times together, and then Benjo kicked Bark, and then Bark started dispersing south. That will happen there. So with all data, we can actually try to understand the behavior of our koalas and then try to help to protect and try to do something else. So I'll give it back to Roman.
So what are the next step that we want to do? With all that data, it's excellent to understand better koala, to understand their threat, to try to address it. But of course, we also need to see whether what we are doing is actually pushing the population towards where we want them. We want them to stabilize, and of course, we want them to increase. So I wanted to tell you that in the future, what is coming to the redlands is monitoring koala for density, which is extremely hard because koala are really good at hiding. So we will deploy our drone and our thermal camera. And when we found those koala, we're also going to assess them for health, because what we really want to push in the next few years is that disease management. We really want to reverse that trend. We want to see healthy koala and breeding koala. So obviously, we will be, each time that we are out there with the dog, with the drone, tracking our ambassador koala, we will be recording the health of our koala, organizing them for to be rescued and treated at hospital. But we also think that the more eyes on the ground, the better. And so this is where, if everyone outside, when they walk their dog, when they pick up kid at school, have a look for our koala and knows the sign of disease, then we think we've got a very good chance for urban population to be extremely well monitored and potentially to address that very critical threat that is disease. To facilitate that, there's a few things happening that are really exciting. We mentioned already the Koala Watch, so reporting those sightings and being made in contact with the wildlife rescue groups. And we're also developing a Bluetooth ear tag, which will talk to the phone, because we all have them now around, and will also assist you in knowing the sign, in reporting that koala as sick koala, in liaising with ambulance and getting that koala treated as quickly as possible. It will be also a really good tool to monitor population in the urban area, as well as hopefully in the future being integrated with other things, such as an alert if you have a dog in your garden and a koala is about to enter the garden and things like that. Can also potentially, hopefully one day, talk to the very clever signs and that you learn all about in a later talk. So lots of ideas for development, but really, really the incentive for us, from what we've done, it's really that message that we can all, and it's great. We didn't all say let's all say that in our talk, but we are all saying it, and that's because we all believe it. As an individual, we're not just researcher; we're also individual. We live somewhere, we have an impact, and we can all contribute to reducing our impact. So, of course, you've heard a few of those things before, but please do get involved. Redland City Council is a place where there are still a lot of koala. There are also threats. But you have a council that has a lot that you can jump in and help, with reporting koala, with rehabilitation, with, pool and fencing and all those things we've discussed, and a lot of information out there to guide you through the process. Protect and restore koala habitat on your property, but also there's a lot of other groups that are doing restoration projects. It's always good to plant a tree. Of course, it would have been better 20 years ago, as we always say, but today is a good day to plant. Decrease the threats that we are responsible for. So I always like to say that we are part of the problem, but because of that, we are also part of the solution. So drive carefully, restrain your dog, etc. It all matters, and be part of a koala network. You have a koala action group in GP, which is very active, which organizes a lot of engagement, a lot of work to count koala, to report koala. And the more eye on the ground is really going to make the difference for those urban population. And something that we have noticed is that sometimes we assume that koala are very well protected in national park, and because we have them in national park, that's fine. But we have seen, unfortunately, that drought and wildfire can really affect those populations. So I wouldn't let go of our urban koala. I think they are critical parts of preserving the species. And beside that, they have a right to live here. And beside that, of course, we love having them in our backyard. So it's, it's something we would love, of course, future generation to be able to experience as well. So thank you for making a difference.